In April 2022, a disturbing and tragic story unfolded in the U.S., capturing the attention of media outlets. It would soon become an international sensation, shocking the world to its core. This is the unsettling case of Lacey Ellen Fletcher, the body found on a couch. Lacey's early life began in Slaughter, Louisiana, a small town with a mere 882 residents in 2020, according to the United States Census Bureau. Lacey, born to Sheila and Clay Fletcher, grew up in a seemingly ordinary household. Her parents were highly respected members of the community, known for their church involvement. The Fletchers had moved to their tidy, two-story home on a gravel cul-de-sac 27 years prior, where young Lacey made friends with local children. As a teenager, she attended Brownsville Baptist Academy in Louisiana, participating in the school's volleyball team and enjoying Disney films. However, Lacey's life took a dark turn. After her 9th grade year, she abruptly stopped attending school, disappearing from the lives of her friends. A neighbor, Robert Blades, described how Lacey, once a sociable child, became isolated around the age of 14 at the hands of her parents. As a teen, Lacey attended the Brownsville Baptist Academy in Louisiana. She was featured on the school's volleyball team. Lacey was last seen by her school friends during the 9th grade. In a 1998 team photo, Lacey could be seen beaming as she posed alongside her classmates. In her yearbook photo, she could be seen smiling. From anyone looking at this photograph, it would appear that Lacey was a normal and happy teen. However, what would come to be of Lacey's story was far from this. After these images were taken, Lacey stopped attending school and was no longer seen or heard from by her friends. A neighbor of the Fletchers, 59-year-old Robert Blades, described Lacey as having been a nice and normal kid who enjoyed playing outside with the other neighborhood kids. This was until her parents had put a stop to this and began to isolate her from them around the age of 14. Robert said that Lacey had gone from hanging around with many children to this suddenly changing and hardly any friends going over to her house anymore. Robert Blades' son recalled of how Lacey was not your typical teenager, and she was certainly different. He spoke of how Lacey was extremely smart, but not as mature as the other kids her age. She seemed to be interested in things younger than her years, such as Disney movies and country music. Robert added, "When she was 17 or 18, she did invite us over to watch Disney movies, despite being more withdrawn. But that wasn't my forte. I was 18. I used to ride motorcycles." Robert Blades recalled that the final time he remembered seeing Lacey before she was no longer around was in the year 2007, a time in which Lacey would have been 21 years old. He described Lacey as having been fairly physically normal. He spoke of how she had always been a little thin, and she was exercising in the road with those small weights you carry. Blades, a retired welder, said he challenged Lacey's father, Clay Fletcher, over his daughter's whereabouts around 5 years ago, because she hadn't been seen for years. He said, "I asked Clay because I hadn't seen her for so long. I actually thought maybe she got married and moved on." He replied, "Oh no, she's still here, she's fine," and then changed the subject, and that's it. He didn't explain why we hadn't seen her at all. And with that, the neighbor asked no more questions, accepting Lacey's withdrawal from society with no further explanation. Just like her school friends and teachers. From what Lacey's parents told people, this was completely her own doing and exactly what she wanted. However, it would be a phone call that came into 911 at 2 a.m. on the morning of January 3, 2022. That would change the perspective of the entire story and kickstart the most bizarre, cruel, and unfathomable cases to ever come out of the small town. Sheila Fletcher called 911 to report that Lacey was not breathing. It is unclear why she decided to call at that time, but some reports say that a neighbor was present in the home and told her she had to call authorities. Robert Blades said, "There was one neighbor here, we don't know who it was, had supposedly seen Lacey on the couch like that and told the parents they had to call the police," he said. And that's what we were told. I don't know how much truth there is in that. A sheriff's deputy was dispatched to the scene and quickly called Coroner Dr. Ewell Bickham. "I have been a sheriff for 6 years, and I have had a lot of things happen here in East Feliciana Parish. But this type of scene, this is by far the worst," Sheriff Jeffrey Travis said. "Opened the door, walked into the house, there was a stench, an odor, feces, fecal material, urine, you couldn't hold your breath. Coroner Bickham said. District Attorney Sam D'Aquila, who sought murder charges and will prosecute the Fletchers at trial, shared the images with DailyMail.com at his office near the courthouse in Clinton. He would not release them for publication. Nearly all were unpublishable due to their horrifying graphic content. In them, Lacy appears almost buried in the wide and deep hole in the sofa that her bony body has worn over the years, rubbing away the cushioning. She is slumped over on her left side with her right arm across the top half of her emaciated body near her neck. She is naked apart from a small blue patterned t-shirt, which is pulled up on her chest and does not cover her breasts. Her eyes are wide open, staring. Her mouth is also open, revealing what appears to be a full set of front teeth. Her legs are pulled up and crossed underneath her, ironically in a way that people can make themselves comfortable. But in Lacy's case, it was a posture of a bid to survive. Her face is covered in large and angry red blotches. Excrement is smeared over almost all of her body. It is matted in her hair. It is even inside her ears. There are maggots and insect bites all over her body. The brown leather sofa that served as her prison is alongside a wall, with a gap of about 18 inches. Astonishingly, to the couch's right side is a gray commode and a neat pile of clothes. And to the front, only a few feet away, is a cluttered low black table. It is strewn with lotion bottles, some talcum powder, a pack of wipes, a nasal spray, a box with a lid that had a child's photo on it, and other items that make it appear the Fletchers had the resources to clean their stricken only child. Between the sofa and table are two neatly stacked boxes of DVDs. It is not possible to discern the titles, but some appeared to be childlike from the covers. Desperately sad photos of Lacy taken later on a physician's steel table for a forensic examination further reveal the extent of her harrowing and so far unexplained ordeal. She weighed just 96 pounds when discovered dead in the early hours of January 3rd. Close-ups show the flesh on her buttocks appears to be literally worn or eaten away from the 12 years that she hadn't moved from the couch. There are large, raw yellow areas where the skin has disappeared. Other back and buttock areas are so blackened it is impossible for anyone to identify what exactly they are looking at. Part of a video taken by coroner Dr. Ewell Bickham was also seen by DailyMail.com. He was among the first on the horror scene after a sheriff's deputy responded to a 911 call and documented the appalling spectacle. He is breathing heavily as he moves the camera to the gap behind the sofa and the wall. A large wet patch is on the floor, directly behind Lacy's body, which he believes is urine. D'Aquila said as he revealed the horror to us. You can't say she wasn't in pain. Dr. Bickham has revealed Lacy died from severe medical neglect, which led to chronic malnutrition, acute starvation, immobility, acute ulcer formation, osteomyelitis, bone infection, which finally led to sepsis. Upon further investigation, authorities determined that Lacy had not been seen by a doctor since she was 16, over 20 years. She weighed 96 pounds and had COVID when she died. The coroner has reported that Lacy died 24 to 48 hours before her mother called 911. There are some reports that say Lacy suffered from locked-in syndrome. Locked-in syndrome is a rare neurological disorder in which there is complete paralysis of all voluntary muscles, except for the ones that control the movements of the eyes. Individuals with locked-in syndrome are conscious and awake, but have no ability to produce movements outside of eye movement. Cognitive function is usually unaffected. Communication is possible through eye movements or blinking. Locked-in syndrome is caused by damage to the pons, a part of the brainstem that contains nerve fibers that relay information to other areas of the brain. There is much debate online about if Lacy actually suffered from locked-in syndrome, but it is worth mentioning as it is frequently mentioned regarding this case. Lacy's parents said during questioning that she was intellectually sound until the end of her life. Sheila's story was that Lacy was alive at 10 p.m. Sheila fell asleep in a chair and woke up at 2 a.m. to find Lacy dead on the couch. She said that Lacy refused to get off the couch for years and would just use the couch as a toilet. Despite the depraved conditions that Lacy was found in, her parents were not immediately charged. On May 3rd, 4 months after Lacy's sad death, both Clay and Sheila were charged with second-degree murder. They were arrested after a grand jury decided, along with attorney Sam D'Aquila, that they should face second-degree murder charges and not manslaughter. Sheila was released on May 4th after she posted $300,000 in bail. Clay spent one more night in jail due to a bond delay, but he was released the following day. They used a bondsman, which means they had to put up 12%, $72,000 to cover them both. The couple's first arraignment is due in the next few months, and attorney Sam DeQuilla said that a trial could commence by October. The grand jury were shown extensive images of the conditions in which Lacy was found. Dr. Bickham told DailyMail.com they were so horrific and upsetting that medics were on standby for the 12 panel members. He added that the photos of the scene left those in the room speechless. When I was presenting the case and showed the pictures and gave the timeline, the expressions of the grand jury was utter shock, he said. Like the clock on the wall never moved again. There was complete silence. Some jurors were gasping in horror. Some were staring in disbelief. Coroner Bickham told the media that the case has been really hard on him personally and described the grand jury proceedings as a long emotional day. He added, "Seeing those photos again and reliving this traumatic experience again was really hard." Coroner Bickham spoke outside the court after proceedings, and he revealed that Lacy had been on the couch for at least 12 years. Evidence-wise, a minimum of 12 years, he said. Could be before that. At least 12 years. A terribly long period of time. Outside the court, D.A. DeQuilla said, "I believe justice was served here today. Lacey Fletcher didn't deserve the way she was treated." For this type of crime, second degree is the highest charge that could have been produced today. Negligent homicide is 0 to 5 years, manslaughter is 0 to 40 years, and second degree is life in prison. I will ask for second degree because they didn't do what they were supposed to do. He agreed Lacy's death was a crime against humanity, and added, "I hope this indictment brings some spotlight to victims of this type of crime. You don't treat anybody or any animals like that. Something had to be done. And we all got together. We all stood on the same platform, and we are all here now, and we have an indictment for second-degree murder." The couple's lawyer Stephen Moore has said in a statement, "They don't want to relive the pain of losing a child through the media. They have been through a lot of heartache over the years. Anyone who had lost a child knows what it's like." As of right now, a trial date has not been set for Sheila and Clay Fletcher.